March 9th, a new set of DLC tracks were released for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the fourth wave of the Booster Course Pass. Every time the game is updated, Nintendo often does some bug fixes and slight adjustments to make the game better, but with the Wave 4 update, these slight adjustments changed the game forever. This is a summary of the drastic effect this update has on the game, and how much it affects the speedrun scene. In most racing games, the goal is to finish each track as fast as you can. Depending on what game mode you play, there will be many types of obstacles and mechanics that hinder you from achieving your goal, like difficult jumps, tight turns, and challenging opponents. Mario Kart games have a very high skill ceiling when it comes to how well you can drive, but generally, people's focus lay on online races, where item management is the deciding difference. In online play, it's all about maximizing your chance at winning. Using an item in the right moment can completely turn the table, and it's these decisions that make the outcome of each race so interesting. Decision making is what makes players consistently good. They're skilled at driving and make the best decisions to increase their chances of winning. And one of the important factors in a race is of course the vehicle. In Mario Kart 8, you can choose every vehicle part yourself, allowing you to find a vehicle and a character that you're very comfortable driving with. Every vehicle part affects the way the kart handles in some way, and there are a lot of different stats that come into play when you choose. But many players simply want to use whatever vehicle is the best. In Mario Kart Wii, all players use Funky Kong and the Flame Runner bike, and only a few use Daisy Mach bike. Karts are very slow in this game, because only bikes can do wheelies to increase speed. These two bike combos are the fastest ones, but Mach bike has so much lower weight that it puts you at a disadvantage, because you get bumped around more and you also don't blend in on the minimap. Same goes for Mario Kart 7. In this game, B-Dasher is the best vehicle. These four characters share the same stats, but for online races, players use Metal Mario, because he has a smaller vehicle making it easier to dodge items. Mario Kart 7 was also the first game to let you choose individual vehicle parts, but that aspect too has an optimal option. Red Monster. Red Monster tires have the highest off-road stat in the game, which makes it possible to drift through off-road, allowing you to do shortcuts that otherwise can't be done without a mushroom, which gives a big advantage every lap. This is what the Mario Kart meta looks like, and it's to be expected. When you have vehicles with widely different perks and advantages, there's a very high chance that a certain vehicle will be the optimal choice. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the most balanced entry when it comes to vehicle performance. All of these vehicles are practically identical in speed and mini turbo. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is also the most beginner-friendly installment yet, thanks to the smart steering function, which prevents the player from falling off the track and crashing into a wall, and the auto accelerate function that holds the pedal for you. With these two functions enabled, your kart will drive the track on its own, incredibly beginner-friendly. But in every online lobby, there's always some players using this one vehicle. Wall Wiggler is a combo you see in nearly every online race. Many players started using it after Team Japan used it as their main vehicle in the Mario Kart World Cup 2018, which they ended up winning. It's not a vehicle in its own league, but if you use the same vehicle as everyone else, it might take them a bit longer before they throw that red shell. There are so many strategic plays to employ if a player doesn't blend in, but it's the vehicle in itself that is complained about, often considered a try-hard build, but just like previous titles, this just happens to be the vehicle that players lean towards. With the Wave 4 update, Nintendo increased the in-game stats for some characters and vehicle parts, but Nintendo made these physics apply to the single-player game modes as well, including time trials, where players have spent years figuring out the fastest way to drive each course, where to drift, how to do track-specific strategies, but most importantly, what vehicles to use. Time trial players spend thousands of hours to master the best vehicles on the different courses. Some world records use baby character Biddy, where they constantly drift to get mini turbos, which if executed properly makes a zero-speed vehicle faster on many tracks. In 200cc, speed combos are often used. Vehicles with very high speed and very bad mini turbos. They're used on tracks with long straights and wide turns, because mini turbos speed you up less in 200cc. There's a lot of vehicle variety in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe speedrunning, and it's really difficult to reach a high level on all the tracks, because you have to be proficient at driving so many different vehicles. Therefore, it's a very long process to get just a decent run on all the 160 categories. All players compete on the same game version. If a balance patch comes along and some characters get buffed, players have to adapt their playstyle to remain at the top. But if a single player game gets a vehicle buff, especially when 6 years after its release, the speedrun progression goes down the drain. In the last month, nearly all world records have been demolished, the main culprit behind this destruction being Birdo, the first character to be released in the Booster Course Pass. Nintendo wanted to make sure Birdo would see use online, so they turned Birdo's mini turbo stat nearly all the way up, along with many vehicle parts they considered disadvantages. The mini turbo stat is used every time your kart generates a boost. It decides the duration of trick boosts and mini turbos, and even how fast your mini turbos accumulate. Because of how many mechanics the MT stat is tied to, half of the 150cc world records use a 0 speed max MT build, because it allows you to be in a boost that much longer. It's these stat increases that have led to so many records being beaten. This vehicle update primarily affects 150cc time trials, because mini turbos are more powerful in that class. We've seen many of the strongest world records get beaten in the last few weeks. On screen you see some former world records and how much faster the world record is after Wave 4. It's ridiculous how widespread the damage is, and it's really demeaning that some legendary world records have fallen, only because stats got buffed. The 150cc Mute City world record was set by the player Stir back in June 2020, a 151.278. It remained unbeaten when we entered 2023. It was on pace to become the first 1000 day world record, an incredible accomplishment that very few players get the chance of. But Wave 4 released 1 week before it would hit 1000 days, and players quickly found that with the stat changes, a new vehicle combo is much faster than the one Stir used. Luigi Ink Striker. If we compare this build to the one Stir used to drive his run, you can see that it's better in every aspect. It has more speed, more handling, and the same mini turbo stat. Stir's record got beaten 3 days after the update, just shy of 1000 days. Ink Striker has always been a great vehicle for tracks with anti-gravity, and the Ink Striker's counterparts, Mach 8 and Sports Coupe, have the exact same stats and have been used in world records for years. But they all have low mini turbo and handling, so for most tracks, Biddy Buggy would be slightly faster. But when the Ink Striker got a mini turbo increase, and Luigi got a mini turbo and speed increase, while Luigi is just dead. Stir's Mute City Run is only one of the iconic records that have fallen as a result of the update. The only 150cc world record that uses an inward drifting bike is on Toad's Turnpike. This track is all about taking precise lines, hugging the wall and avoiding cars. A player called Edgy specializes in playing this track, and since 2018, nobody besides him has held a world record on this track. 5 years of being the record holder, and despite some close calls, no other players have reached this level. But only a week after the Wave 4 update, Yoshi Biddy Buggy became the fastest vehicle combo on this track, and by a big margin. Suddenly, snaking was the fastest way to drive this track, and this type of driving is nothing like how it was before. Years of effort in muscle memory is no longer useful, and a lot of Turnpike players don't want to play it anymore, which is understandable when you see the inputs required to get just one of the purple MTs. These two records are the saddest to go so far in my opinion. Both of these players have been ahead of their time on these tracks, but now they've been beaten with buffed characters and vehicles they didn't have access to. When Wave 4 released, I streamed my world record attempts of the new courses. After a few hours of the update being out, players started pointing out that they buffed a ton of characters and vehicles. I tried Birdo on Twisted Mansion, a track that uses max MT build with Baby Daisy.
Yeah,
Dude,
like
I might get world record first attempt.
This game is stupid. You're Is that record pace?
Yeah, it's ahead of record. I was so shocked that it was hard to focus on driving. But after 8 minutes of playing, I managed to tie Alberto's world record. Guys, I tied the world record.
What?
You tied?
TM.
There are so many great players competing to perfect their driving. But with Birdo, I got a world record in 10 minutes, on a track I hadn't played since last year. I had to see how far it could go, so I found more tracks to play and managed to get some more vehicle buff carried world records. Sweet Sweet Canyon has some of the most precise mini turbos in the game. but Yoshi was so much faster that despite driving poorly, I got it after 15 minutes. N64 Yoshi Valley was fittingly very fun to play with Yoshi. It felt about the same as it did with the old world record vehicle, Lemmy Biddy-Buggy. Yoshi has much higher speed than Lemmy, so when you're not in the boost, he gains time just for existing. Dude, that's world record. Are you kidding me? Rainbow Road is really hard to play with Yoshi. I had to relearn drift setups because Yoshi has lower handling, so it took me 3 hours to get it, and a very bittersweet sub 159 that Alberto deserved to get. Alberto has spent some time optimizing the Rainbow Road world record to make it as optimized as it was before, currently at a 158.4, but he has so many world records to optimize that it's gonna take him many months to find the time to do so, which brings me to another problem. Players will adapt to meta changes, always. The players who seek to perform will do so, even if adapting is discouraging. But this update affects the players who don't play the game anymore. Leaderboards are made for competing with the same rules. The game is equally difficult to all players, and that's what makes reaching the top 10 so worthwhile. But now that so many vehicles have had their stats increased, players can beat world records with a tiny fraction of the effort it would normally take. I think the best case of this is the player Soman, a player who was far ahead of his time when it came to world record strength, setting many incredible runs that still rank high on the leaderboards years later. He currently holds one world record, on Royal Raceway, a track he grinded for a very long time. Soman sold his game after setting this run, quitting time trials for good and leaving this world record behind. But half a year after, we get buffed vehicles, and Yoshi Teddy Buggy gains 0.7 against Waluigi Biddy, the fastest vehicle Soman had access to. And if you look at the top 10, you can see how many players that are within 0.5 of his run. And now, 1 month later, I don't think any player will get a run as optimized as Soman's, probably for a few years. You have to beat his run by 0.7 if you want to be proud of being number 1. Because of this, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe speedrunning feels very different from before. Pretty much every world record in the game is driven with a vehicle that now is outclassed, and it will take hundreds of hours for players to get solid times on all the tracks again. A lot of players lost their world records abruptly, and some players lost their records with no chance of taking it back. It's a new chapter for speedrunning, where Nintendo's DLC can destroy hundreds of hours of work. For the most part, the same players will remain the best, but who knows how Nintendo might shake things up when they release Wave 5. It's incredibly demeaning for all players competing to set strong time trial runs, as the concept of the game mode is to drive as fast as you can, and just a month into the update, many world records are faster than what the physical limit was. The stat changes affect 150cc runs the most, but every single run set before March 9th suffers from the update, because no matter what vehicle was used, it has been buffed or has been outclassed by another vehicle. Time trials isn't a very popular game mode amongst the player base, so it's likely Nintendo will do another stat overhaul in the next update, when they see that Waluigi has been replaced by Luigi Inkstriker as the online meta. Updating stats in a game like Mario Kart barely changes anything. The best vehicles are so similar already, and players will just choose the same one to blend in anyway. And what's the point of making the stat buffs apply to single player racing? So that the CPUs drive half a second faster each race? Nintendo could at the very least make it an online play only thing. Players won't play time trials to get insane world records until the DLC is done. If they add an overpowered Funky Kong, and buff the vehicles even more, players have to grind the 160 categories again to remain on top. It's objectively a gamble to speedrun this game heavily for the next 9 months, so we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this, please consider subscribing. My videos take a long time to make, and I appreciate all the support I can get. Thanks.